Javon Hadley's career day helped push Louisville past Clemson on Tuesday evening.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Today's episode of the show brought to you by FanDuel. From large upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed win or lose. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Javon Hadley had the best performance of his career on Tuesday night at the KFC Yum Center, and it helped Louisville defeat Clemson in a primetime ACC matchup. We'll discuss what was going right for Hadley, how the Cardinals were able to defeat the Tigers. We'll identify an extremely encouraging statistic over this 5-game winning streak for the Louisville men's basketball team. And then to conclude the show, we will discuss the current state of the linebacker room for the Cardinals football team. Kalib Perry commits. The Tennessee linebacker ends up coming to Louisville. TJ Quinn announces his return. So a lot of good stuff happening for that position in the Cardinals defense. We start on the men's basketball side of things, to where Louisville came into this matchup against Clemson as a 3.5-point favorite. And I thought it was essentially a toss-up, especially if you believe in the narrative that you you add 3 points to the spread, based upon the home team. So it was basically a toss-up. This was a really key matchup in a notable week, the most important week, in my opinion, remaining for the Louisville men's basketball team. Javon Hadley got going early, had 18 points or over 18 points in the first half, got most of his scoring in the first half, but he ended up with a career high 32 points. He had 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal. He was the Cardinals' offense on Tuesday night. He played 36 minutes, which was actually tied for second on the team. Chucky played 37. Terrence Edwards also played 36 as well. Hadley, 10 of 12 from the field, 3 of 3 from three-point land, and 9 of 11 from the free throw line. He was able to get to his spot all night long. Now, Clemson had the, I would say, size advantage with Ian Shefflin being 6'8", Victor Locken being at least 7 foot, but Louisville had the toughness advantage in this one. Javon Hadley couldn't be stopped. No matter who was guarding him, he was getting to his spot there right towards the low block, taking a couple dribbles, doing a little post move, and putting the ball up towards the rim. And they couldn't stop it. Clemson had no answer for the fifth-year senior from Minnesota. The Colorado transfer got going early. He made some nice 3-point shots. I mean, I'm glad he had the willingness to take them, because all 3 of his 3-pointers, it felt like some were wide open. I think 2 of them were wide open. One of them, there was a defender at pretty close proximity, but still Hadley was able to knock that down. And I think that ultimately opened up much more opportunity for him to be able to get the ball, have Louisville sort of clear out that side of the court, and just let him cook. That's what it kind of comes down to. Let him cook. And Javon Hadley cooked up a masterclass performance against the Clemson Tigers, and Louisville needed it, because outside of Javon Hadley, I mean, you look at the rest of the team, Chucky Hepburn was 1 of 10, had 9 points, but was 1 of 10 from the field. Terrence Edwards was 2 of 11. Rain Smith was 1 of 7. So Pat Kelsey needed someone else to step up. James Scott had a good performance, but only 11 points, like in comparison to what Hadley was able to do. And then playing really good defense. That's another thing. You get caught up in the scoring, as you should, because 32 points is definitely a notable scoring line, but 10 rebounds against a Clemson team that was severely out-rebounding the Cardinals up until about the last TV timeout of the game. He was also playing really good defense. Ian Shefflin, that matchup against him kind of scared me because of the physicality that he plays with, and he showed that for the most part, but Hadley was able to just completely alter the game defensively, whether it was getting guys the ball, down in the low block. He was defending that well on the interior. He was also giving really good perimeter defense as well. And that's something that when Louisville added Hadley, I was excited about the most was the versatility as a defender. He can guard on the perimeter. He can guard down low. He's got the size and strength to guard the paint, but the speed and lateral quickness to guard outside. And you saw that get put on full display, being able to go over the ball screens and being able to rotate back. Just the versatility is key. Same with Terrence Edwards. Now, Edwards isn't the post defender that Hadley is, but he can switch on a couple positions around the perimeter. But it was really awesome to watch Hadley just go to work and be able to get to his spot, take good shots. He had a couple turnovers, but his usage was really high, so I'm not really worried about it. When the Cardinals needed a bucket, they went to number one, and number one put Louisville on his back, and that's what you love to see. 74-64 here for the Cardinals. They did a good job of not sending Clemson to the foul line. Only 4 or 5 free throws for the Tigers, 16 of 20 for Louisville. And I've seen Clemson fans talk about, well, the free throw differential, that's the reason why Clemson lost the game. And if you watch the game, I mean, Louisville mainly fouled Clemson on rebounding attempts, off-ball fouls. Didn't really foul them a ton going to the rim. And I think that is a testament to the defense that the Cardinals have played over this 5-game winning streak, is that they understand that they just don't have the luxury to foul because their rotation is pretty small. So they do a good job of going straight up with their hands up in the air, not going over top of the ball or leaning in, but just jumping straight up and keeping their hands up to where if you make a tough layoff, it is what it is, but you're not going to get a foul call on me. Clemson was struggling at defending Louisville cutting to the basket, which if you would have told me that was going to be the case 2 months ago, it would have been hard to believe, right? Because Louisville was mainly just a live and die by the three-pointer. And they still take a good amount of three-pointers, but they've grown as a team and gotten better at putting the ball on the floor and getting to the cup and getting to the foul line. Louisville shot 45.5% from the field this game. Clemson shot 40%. It wasn't a bad shooting night overall for the Tigers. 33% for Clemson from three. Louisville shot about 30%. Clemson out-rebounded Louisville by 6. It was at double digits at times. Now, they did have 16 offensive rebounds, and a couple, I'd say a good number of those came in the same sequence to where Victor Walken, I feel like, got 4 offensive rebounds at once. Just kept, it was like playing popcorn, hot potato. It was, the ball kept going up and kept landing in his hands. Ian Shefflin the same. A couple of rebounds were just long rebounds, but ultimately, it would have been nice to limit some of those, but you live and learn, and that's a good team that you're playing against. They're scrappy. They like to get to the glass and make life tough for you. Louisville had 1 more assist than turnovers. They turned the ball over much more than I would like, but it is what it is. Only 2 fast break points for Clemson, which was nice. Louisville led by as many as 14 in this game. And something that I'm catching on to, that it kind of goes without saying because they're on a 5-game winning streak, I'm extremely encouraged by the way that this team closes out games. Like when Clemson went on that 9-0 run to cut the lead to 5 with about 8 minutes left in the second half, the Cardinals were able to cut an end to that, or stop the bleeding, cut the losses, and be able to continue to push that lead out. Let's see. It actually got cut to looks like it was, yeah, they cut it to 1 at some point in that second half. Clemson hit a 3, and then Kenai Roots hit a 3. And at that point, yeah, Louisville really didn't look back. And to me, it's a testament to this team just continuing to clutch up. The North Carolina game, they're up by 1 with about 4 minutes to go, and they ended up going on a run to win that game. Virginia, they went on a run at the end of the second half to win that game by 20. Same with Florida State. They ended up coming back and getting a game-winning shot against EKU. And against Clemson, you're seeing the Cardinals play their best basketball over this 5-game stretch in the last part of the second half. And for a team that has tournament aspirations, you love to see it because they're getting out and scoring points in the first half. Love to see that. But it's not like the second half comes, coaches make adjustments, and Louisville's caught not knowing what to do like they have been in years past. Pat Kelsey is coaching his butt off. He is showing time and time again, out of timeouts, making adjustments. He's making all these changes the way that we hoped whatever coach, whether it was Chris Mack, whether it was Kenny Payne, Pat Kelsey is making those changes in the second half to say, you know what, we had a good first half, but here's how we're going to combat their adjustments. And we've done a fantastic job of doing that. So, like I said, it's just really encouraging to see that development. But there is one thing that encourages me the most. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with the goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We discussed before the break that there is encouraging statistics / development that I find the most exciting and thus the most encouraging. You look back at this 5-game winning streak, and I think that one thing that I'm really appreciative of is the Cardinals' defense. Louisville has looked really good on the defensive side of the basketball. They have allowed over 70 points. Well, actually twice. They had the 76 against Florida State, 76 against Eastern Kentucky, 70 against North Carolina, 50 versus Virginia, and 64 versus Clemson. That is how many points they've allowed. But you look back at this 5-game winning streak. There's a Twitter account that tweeted this out. It's Crooked Cardinal Head, @HeadCrooked. They pointed this out late last night, and when I saw it, I didn't even really realize that this was the case. So I was like, that's encouraging to see. In this 5-game winning streak, Louisville has had 5 different leading scorers. Against Florida State, Rain Smith led with 27. Against Eastern Kentucky, Terrence Edwards Jr. led with 20. Against North Carolina, Chucky Hepburn had 26. At Virginia, Abubakar Traore had 15. And hosting Clemson, Javon Hadley had 32. So 5 different leading scorers for a team that going into the conference slate, one of the pressing questions was, outside of Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards for that matter, who's going to step up? Who's going to rise to the occasion and take some of the scoring burden and responsibilities off of Chucky Hepburn? Because he has had to, now granted, when he's not on the court, Louisville doesn't really have the cohesiveness from a ball handling facilitator standpoint. I don't think that changes at any point this year. I think that Louisville, Chucky Hepburn's going to have to play at least 35 minutes a game. That's just the reality of the situation. But with other players stepping up, scoring the basketball, that just opens up so many doors. It makes you to where you're not just one-dimensional. It makes you to where teams can't just hyper-focus on 1 to 2 players. Like you could tell, Clemson game planned for Rain Smith last night. Every time he came around a screen, boom, someone was there. Every time he got the basketball, boom, one guy's there. Every time a screen was set, they're going over it to where, if Rain Smith scores, it's because he's making really tough shots or he's getting to the foul line. Rain Smith was 1 for 7 against Clemson. They had a game plan for Rain Smith. They had a game plan for Chucky Hepburn. Hepburn really didn't shoot the ball all that well in the game, 1 for 10. So someone else had to step up. Edwards didn't shoot the ball all that well. Noah Waterman was in foul trouble for most of the night. So they ended up going to Javon Hadley. And last game, it was Abubakar Traore that was able to step in and score the basketball. Chucky Hepburn looked fantastic against North Carolina. He ended up getting to the free throw line a lot. Terrence Edwards looked good against Eastern Kentucky. And Rain Smith caught fire against Florida State and Tallahassee. So for a team that aspires to play well enough in ACC competition to get to the NCAA tournament, it was required that other players had to step up and be more reliable scoring the basketball. And having 5 different players lead scoring, I just think it highlights that the team that Pat Kelsey assembled is like this now. And this is why you don't write this team off in November, because, we talked about how talented this team was. It was just a matter of time for guys to get used to playing with one another. You're not going to look at your best when you haven't played one team up to your caliber. So when Louisville played Tennessee, and Tennessee's a buzzsaw outside of the game against Florida last night, in that game against Tennessee, the first time Louisville had played a team up to their caliber, they struggled. And the same thing happened when they played Duke and Kentucky, some really good teams. Ole Miss. But I was seeing people write this team off. And this is sort of one of the reasons why I was like, look, you're seeing Chucky shoulder the scoring responsibilities right now, but Louisville has guys that can put the ball in the basket at a high rate. Like the guys that they brought in, maybe they're not alpha dog scorers, like 1A scoring options, but they still can score double digits in any given night and have a night to where they're playing really well. And this is what this 5-game winning streak has showed. So is it going to always be like this? I doubt it. I think, with the however many games Louisville has remaining, I would argue that Terrence Edwards and Chucky Hepburn are going to make up the majority of the remaining games in terms of the leading scorer will more often than not be one of those 2 guys. You'll have Rain Smith, factoring into the equation because of the 3-point shooting that he has. But Abubakar Traore, Javon Hadley, confidence continuing to get boosted. A 32-point game, that's really nice. Abubakar Traore playing his best game of the year against Virginia. Momentum is a real development. It's a real trend. And you can tell that the guys are having fun. They're believing in themselves. The fan base is starting to uplift them. The game against Clemson was the loudest game of the season by far, especially in the second half. Everyone was standing from the under 8 TV timeout to the very end of the game. So there's a lot of encouraging things that you can take away from what the Cardinals are doing over the past couple of weeks. But I think the most encouraging part to me is the fact that 5 games, 5 different scores, because it makes Louisville less predictable. It says, okay, yes, you can focus on Chucky Hepburn, or you can put all your focus on Rain Smith. But look at Javon Hadley. You've got to respect him. You've got to respect Noah Waterman. You've got to respect Abubakar Traore, Terrence Edwards Jr. So something to just pay attention to moving forward if this trend continues to where you're seeing more than just 2 players be Louisville's leading scorer. So we will preview the upcoming matchup against Pittsburgh coming up in the next couple of episodes. But to conclude this show, we'll discuss the current state of the Louisville linebacker room. Kalib Perry from Tennessee has committed. TJ Quinn is returning. I really like this linebacker room in 2025. I'll explain why coming up on the final segment of this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Cardinal fans, want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. We don't have an ad read for this transition, so I wanted to get on here and sort of give you an idea of how content was going to be released next week. I will be on a work trip next week for Monday through Thursday. We'll be back Thursday night. So my goal is to have an episode following the Pittsburgh game that will be released on Monday. We will also have a preview for the Syracuse matchup. We'll try to talk any football portal talk. That episode will be on Tuesday. There won't be an episode Wednesday. I'm hoping that I will be able to get back in town soon enough to have an episode on Thursday. But if I don't, there will be one on Friday. So if just because there's not 5 next week, we're going to try to overcompensate for it. But just wanted to give you a heads up on the programming of the show and apologize for any inconvenience. January and February are pretty hectic months for me in terms of my day job. So into the final segment of the show, the Louisville linebacker room was one that I had some questions on coming into the offseason because you were going to lose some guys to graduation. You're going to lose some guys to the portal, as the Cardinals did. Stanquan Clark is back. Love that. TJ Capers is back. Love that. And we didn't know about TJ Quinn. As I mentioned on Monday's show, I didn't know. And the people that I talked to, they didn't really know either, but the vibe was that, well, TJ Quinn participated in senior day activities. He's probably either going to go to the portal or to the draft. In that 502 circle, let's call it press run, if you will, where multiple players use the 502 circle graphic, never left, just wanted to make it official, something like that. TJ Quinn was one of those guys to publish that or to post that. So TJ Quinn is back, second year leading the Cardinals in tackles, a veteran guy in the middle of that defense. You can't understate how important that is for a defense that's just losing a good amount of their supporting cast and regular contributors. So nice to get TJ back, having a veteran as the middle linebacker. Stanquan Clark is back, so your starting linebackers are back. I haven't heard one way or the other if Antonio Watts is returning. I would assume he is, but I don't know that for certain. I really hope he does because I think he could be a star, no pun intended, at the star position in 2025. He has continued to take steps forward, really physical linebacker that plays tough, improving in coverage, had the pass breakup on the 2-point conversion to win Louisville the Sun Bowl on New Year's Eve. And if he comes back, I mean, you're bringing back your entire starting linebacker core in from 2024, and that's really solid to see. I do hope that even though TJ Quinn is returning, that Jeff Brom and company find a way to get TJ Capers on the field in a consistent capacity because I think he's a star in the making, and I want to make sure that he gets his reps too. I think that he's definitely going to be in the 2 deep. Louisville got a commitment from Darius Thomas, the Western Kentucky linebacker. I think he's going to back up Antonio Watts at that guard position as the, off-ball outside linebacker in coverage. Louisville also got a commitment recently from Tennessee linebacker Kalib Perry. Kalib Perry comes from Georgetown, Kentucky, was a star at Great Crossing High School, which was originally Scott County that ended up splitting into 2 schools, and he ended up going to Great Crossing, played for the Warhawks. 6'3". He's listed at 230 pounds. I had someone from Georgetown tell me that he's more so like 210, 215, which is what he's listed at on 3, but listed at 230. So we're going to operate that he's in that 230 range, 6'3", 231 pounds. Played at Tennessee for the first couple years of his career, spent 3 years there. According to the Tennessee side, he has 1 year of eligibility remaining, 61 total tackles in 3 seasons playing with the Volunteers. 1 forced fumble that was in 2024. By far had his best year in 2024 as a reserve linebacker for the Volunteers. Played SEC football, which you can't overrate that. He had 4 tackles against Ohio State, 4 against Alabama, 3 against Florida, and played in the majority of the games as a rotational linebacker. So he will slide in. I think he's more so of a weak side linebacker. I think that he's going to rotate with Stanquan Clark, in my opinion. What was pretty interesting to me when you watch his high school film, because there's not much film from the college ranks unless you just go back and watch full Tennessee games, which at this point I don't really have the availability to do so. But he played safety and linebacker for Great Crossing. And it looked like he gained about 15 pounds when he got to college, which seems like the MO for Louisville over the past decade is get safeties, have them add some weight and muscle, and convert them into linebackers. That was the situation with TJ Quinn. Stanquan Clark did that in high school. It just seems like that's been one of the key ways of success for the Louisville linebackers over the past handful of years. So what I'm intrigued by is the opportunity here. I think Perry's versatility, you could see him on the weak side. You could see him potentially playing the star in some situations, but I think he's more so playing in that front 7. So going to be something that I'm focusing on in spring ball, in the offseason, is, okay, what does that dynamic look like in the linebacker room? You have some solid pieces. It doesn't have a ton of numbers. You have Trent Carter from Jacksonville, who's going to be competing for snaps. What's that going to look like in terms of the 2 deep? I imagine TJ Quinn, Stanquan Clark are going to be your starters in the middle. You're going to have TJ Capers in the conversation, Kalib Perry, Trent Carter. You don't have a huge amount of numbers, but you do have some guys with versatility. And then on the outside, you have Antonio Watts, Darius Thomas, and some others. So I really, really like this linebacker room for 2025. TJ Quinn comes back, getting the commitment from Kalib Perry, who's played 3 years of SEC ball and is looking for a spot to where, he can just continue to produce. And I think that Louisville is a spot that he will have that opportunity. So that's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here